welcome back to the impromptu last installment of the Golden Sun No Save and Quit tutorial. I guess there could be another installment in the future, because we keep finding time savers. So we found a ton of time save over the last year since I last published the guide. So what we're doing here is we're updating everybody on all the new tech that we've discovered. You can see a list on screen now. More than that, I will be updating the notes so that the old notes that we linked to, the old High Spirits notes, they'll just be the old route, which covers the first set of videos in this guide. Then I'll create a new set of notes which has the updated strats so that we can keep things straight. Pretty exciting to get into this, so let's dive in. So first up, we have a whole bunch of rerouting happening before Sleet. Now, the first thing up here is this Kolima apple business. Now, the apple gives plus attack on Isaac, or whoever it's used on. We're going to use it on Isaac. The whole reason you'd get this apple, which is about a 5-second investment, is that it removes the damage range on Sleet. And this is very important because there's a lot of strategies these days which are going into Sleet at level 5. The alternative is using Forge, which is a 6-second investment. So the apple being a 5-second investment just overall saves time. So most runners are picking this up these days, so you can consider picking this one up. Next up, we have the Gust on Isaac strategies. So this is a strategy that we're now employing in Billiman Cave, which allows Isaac to outspeed things at level 4. So what you do, you go into Billiman Cave with the usual setup as you're seeing. Set Gust on Ivan for the first fight. This guarantees that Ivan cannot be just randomly two-shot by a gnome or a slime. You clear one encounter, you get a level up, then you swap Gust over to Isaac. You set Gust on Isaac, and then Isaac will now outspeed 2 slimes. Super valuable. This saves a lot of time in this section of the game. And in particular, the slime encounters become completely free. It is a little bit more annoying to heal. You have to go in and stand by Gust and then cure everything to get that through, but it's a price you pay. The other thing that we're doing is we're fleeing a lot more generally in the overworld. Bluezer is fleeing quads. I try to flee encounters that are going to take a long time to clear, like a 2-gnome mauler or something like that. Kind of runner's choice on how you do that, but we're generally taking less encounters and trying to push the boundaries a lot more. Speaking of pushing the boundaries a lot more, that's what we're also thinking about in Mercury Lighthouse. Now this is going to look really sketchy, but you can flee in Mercury Lighthouse with reasonable odds. If you just do this setup with basically the Sleet setup with the Djinn configured as such, what will happen is, if you have everybody set, that is, you'll have enough stats to survive most fights, and it will get very sketchy at times and you can die. On average, you're getting about 5% of runs that will die to fleeing in Mercury Lighthouse, but it is what it is. So the requirements here for this is that you need to have level 6 on Ivan, and that's it. If you have level 6 on Ivan and level 5 on Isaac, which you should if you have a level 6 on Ivan, then you have nothing to worry about. Isaac will get 6 off of Sleet, and then you're home and hosed for Saturos. Risky strategies here, but we're pushing the envelope and trying to go faster, so it's generally worth it. So speaking of fleeing and cutting experience, the new thing after Saturos is that we're not expecting to ever get level 8 on Ivan. If you can take one encounter to get level 8, maybe it's worth it, but even then it may just be straight better to run from everything. So as such, we're basically doing this Djinn setup now where we put everybody into level 2 classes as you've seen, and then running away from everything. And we'll run away from everything until Breeze, and that's totally fine. But Breeze is an adjusted strategy. The adjusted strategy with the Breeze is that you underspeed Breeze so that if Breeze runs away, you don't have to worry about summons regenerating or anything like that. So we defend with Ivan and then just summon with everybody else, and you're all good. So next up we have Rainbow Kills, which are a new thing that we're working on a couple of bosses. Because one of the big things that we're trying to do in this game now is we're trying to get to level 14 on Isaac as fast as possible, and taking free experience where we can is something we do. So now we got this new menu on Tret, which just kind of shuffles things around for efficiency, and we put Mia in slot 1. Mia in slot 1 isn't needed for the Rainbow Kill, but it basically minimizes the amount of bad that can happen in the fight. Basically, Ivan and Mia are split up, so bad things can't happen to Ivan and Mia simultaneously. It can only happen to one of them at most at any given time. Basic strat is pretty simple. You do a summon rush turn 1 with Kieran. Getting damage off front loaded is kind of always nice. And using Kieran on the first turn is going to bring back Fever on the last turn for Isaac. Hopefully you don't get sleep start and everything just kind of works out, but this is what you deal with on Tret. Sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't. You have this flex option on turn 2. You can either use Ray or defend with Ivan, otherwise you're summoning Ramses and doing the Flare Wall Classic. You can either use Ray on this turn or the next turn with Ivan, it doesn't really matter. If Ivan gets damaged on turn 2, it's nice to be able to flex the defend, and then you can just finish it off. And the way it works is that you do the 2 synergies with Mia and Ivan, and then Isaac comes through with Fever, and hopefully you proc the Disco Tree, or Disco Tret, whatever you prefer. And easy, there you go, no problem. The next one is Killer Ape. I should mention though that the outcome of Tret basically gives you a different menu there. It simplifies the menu there, as you can see, you just do one swap instead of a bunch of swaps, so that's the thing. So now we're into the Killer Ape fight, same setup for Killer Ape. The only thing you need to keep in mind for Killer Ape is that Garrett needs to summon Kieran on the first turn. As I mentioned, you need to get Fever back to get these rainbow kills, so we get that off. So you open with Fever, exactly the same turn, Plasma Fever, Granite, but instead of using Flare Wall with Garrett, you're using Kieran. That's going to return Fever back to Isaac on turn 3, that's basically how the strategy works. Other than that, it's basically an unchanged fight. We're going to go through deal oral damage, we're going to do a summon rush on the next turn, we're going to hope that we don't get War Cried or whatever. There's a slight deviation on the third turn, but it's, not much. Basically on the third turn we just need to deal enough damage that Fever will get the kill. Fever deals a lot of damage, so we have plenty of options. One option is we can use attack with Mia and Plasma with Ivan. That is faster if Mia's attack doesn't proc the stun, stun voltage. And otherwise you can do Prism with Mia and Whirlwind with Ivan, which is slower, but on average you don't have to worry about the thing. So here I go for the attack Plasma, so it's all fine. But yeah, you can do Prism, Whirlwind, and then you do Fever, and then you get the easy win. That's quite a lot of experience, which is really nice. Finally, we have the Kraken Rainbow. We rejig the menu here, put Mist on Mia, and now we lose the ability to get the Scorch proc on the Kraken, which is a shame, but the Mist proc is basically the same percent chance to work. So it's a very similar fight, except instead of using Scorch on the first turn, we're using Meteor on the first turn. So we'll go through, do the exact same thing, Vine, Granite, Meteor, and then Sleep. And depending on whether or not Sleep works or not, you have a branching strategy. Consult the new set of notes. They'll have the variant for when Sleep does connect on the first turn. It basically is very similar to what we had before, except Scorch finishes the fight. When Sleep does not proc, you have this pivot here. If you are playing safe, you put the Sleep Bomb onto Isaac. I didn't put the Sleep Bomb on Isaac because I don't believe in the Sleep Bomb. This strategy here got a little bit derailed because we got the Poison proc, which is always scary, so I use a Cure Well. The Cure Well is usually not needed. You hope Sleep procs this turn. Hey, look, it worked. At this point, basically, you set up for a Tiamat. Tiamat is super good, it's super powerful, we have the gen to spend to do it. It's also super fast. By working in that extra Tiamat, we actually are able to eliminate the slow Thor and the slow Neptune. The other variant of the strategy where you do proc Sleep first turn, you have to do Thor and Neptune, but you don't have to do an extra turn, so it kind of all balances out. In fact, the time difference between the first and second turns is a lot shorter with this strategy. It used to be like 16 seconds or something different, now it's only like 3. Of course, up to RNG, depending on what the Kraken decides to do. Anyway, once you've done the round of summons with the strategy, you throw in a Judgment, Scorch, and a Procny, and away you go. And Scorch obviously deals a ton of damage because Garrett has that extra weapon, and it's a very, very safe kill. With Garrett as being the killing blow, you have a higher chance to proc the Rainbow as well, which is super nice. The Kraken Rainbow is by far and away the most important for the level 14 strategy. Okay, now we have a strategy that we call Pocket Procny. Now, Pocket Procny is basically the evolution of the strategies in the Xi'an overworld, the Altan dungeon, and to some extent Lama Khan, just runner's choice there, basically. So we do a different menu here. The menu is basically designed to set up an easy Zephyr, plus level 2 classes on most people, except for Garrett, but that's fine, Garrett's naturally tanky. It's most opportune to do it in this menu here, the one with the Xi'an girl, because that menu is basically free. So the thinking here is basically, we only want to take encounters which are efficient experience-wise. or fast to clear, and it turns out everything in the Xi'an overworld is pretty slow to clear. So what you should do is flee from pretty much everything in the overworld, yes, even apes, and then only fight things back in Alton. Now on Corona, of course you need to set all your Jin for this. On Corona, what you should do is you should stand by all your Jin and set Granite on Ivan. What this is going to do is that it's going to give Ivan enough survivability to tank anything out of Corona. You don't have anything to worry about, and away you go. No problems whatsoever. You can just do Neptune Procne to clear the fight. So then the strategy has a small pivot on the Living Statue fight. It's basically the same fight, except you set Fever on Mia. You use Fever with Mia, you use Ramses with Isaac, and you're totally fine. It's exactly the same fight. There's nothing really special to say here. Of course, though, once you get into Alton, you are only standbying the 3 Jin you require for Procne, and that is it. You are trying to keep the Jin set so that you have maximum survivability when you try to flee from things, and you will use Procne only when it clears the encounter in 1 Procne. Now, if you're brave, you can continue this strategy through to Lamakan. If not, just go back into a normal setup, set Forge, use Drench on encounters that can't be killed with Procne, and yeah, that's kind of all you need to do here. Just be careful though if you're using the Pocket Procne strats in Lamakan, that if you cut too much experience, Ivan may miss level 12. Just keep in mind that Ivan will get 1335 mandatory experience after Lamel Temple from Manticore, Vine, and the boat encounters. So as long as you math it out correctly and you get within that number of experience, you'll avoid this situation here where you don't have sleep on Kraken. So now we have a few miscellaneous tricks that are used in the run now. The first one is the slip and slide out of bounds. Essentially, we arrive at a particular oasis with our heat gauge below 50%. We open up reveal, we go into retreat mode, and then walk across the oasis at a particular angle, and that will pop us out of bounds. It's a pretty precise trick. I've included all of the details in the new set of notes, so you can consult that, and otherwise it's pretty easy to do. The other miscellaneous trick is Vine tapping. So on Vine, what you can do to force the Vine encounter is to tap the button repeatedly. If you are not holding a direction when you get the encounter, then Vine is forced, which is kind of nice. It usually adds a couple percentage points of success to that strategy. There's also a couple variants of strategies going around on this fight. This variant is you set Sleet on Garrett. Garrett uses Cutting Edge with the Elven shirt on. And Thor Cutting Edge works, but Bluezer has a variant as well. They'll both be in the notes when you look at that. One of the advantages of being able to leave the Elven shirt on Garrett for Vine is that you can actually leave the Elven shirt on Garrett through the entire boat sequence as well in preparation for Kraken. All you need to do is to set Zephyr, and then Garrett will outspeed all of the mobs. You just need to use Judgment, Meteor, Judgment, just as you'd always do, and then you're fine. There is a small chance of a random outspeed on the last encounter if you get bad RNG, but it rarely happens. So now we have the biggest change in the route, and that is the Gallant Isaac strategy. This strategy has been so powerful that we've done a huge reroute, like getting in the rainbow kills and things like that, specifically for this strategy. The whole point is that once Isaac reaches level 14, he is strong enough to win Colosso. And so at level 14, what we should be doing then is no longer taking fights in Altmiller. Altmiller encounters are very slow, they're very complicated, it is just a lot better to run from everything. The challenge is that you might die because the encounters in Altmiller are quite strong. So to circumvent this or to get around this a little bit, what we do is we do the Colosso menu as soon as Isaac hits 14. So we're looking for 14. As soon as we hit 14, we move across all of the Venus Gen onto Isaac. What this does is it gives Isaac 270 odd HP. This makes him incredibly tanky and gives you incredible survivability odds. Now, it's not to say that you can't die when you're doing this strategy. You absolutely can. You have to be very, very careful. Stay healed, use Waters of Life when you feel like you need it. But the point is, at the end of the day, you shouldn't die if you are safe enough, and you can get around all these encounters and just save oodles of time and not having to use very costly summons, diving into the menu, having to set your Jin back and things like that. The only consequence here, aside from having to heal a lot, is that you will only be level 14 for Colosso. So at Colosso, this means we have a different strat here. We have a strat where we only have 2 Jin standby on Isaac. So you can either use Oil Drop or Ragnarok to open, then you use Flint, then you use Ground, then you use Judgment. Doing it in this order basically guarantees that Isaac will survive any 2 hits from Azart, which is super nice, because Ground gives Isaac the extra class HP bonus to give that survivability. There are some edge cases that make that fight complicated, but again, all that information is in the notes. We finally revert to thing in the final bit. So once we run across this bit here and flee from many encounters, where we still have the Gallant set up, and then finally do the menu to undo the menu to get back into the summon mode on the bridge here, as we're doing right now. And so this strat doesn't really fit anywhere, but it's a cute little optimization. So on Flash, if you move Ground off of Mia onto either Garrett or Isaac, what you can do here is you can do Boreas with Mia, Ground with Isaac, and Procne with Ivan. Sometimes you might not want to do this for PP management reasons, but otherwise it's just like a quick second or so frame saver, pretty nice. So the last major time saver here is the Fusion Dragon quick kill, but before we get into that, a safety strat for this strategy, because Ivan's going to be in a lot of danger, is to pick up the Power Bread. So as soon as you get into Tolby by Death Warp or after the Barbie cutscene, if not, pick up this Power Bread, and that we want to use this Power Bread on Ivan to give him extra HP, because he is going to be one skinny boy in this fight. The whole point of the Fusion Dragon quick kill is that if we go in and do a Boreas and a Thor on the same turn, we can cut 2 turns from the fight. So we readjust this menu here so that Mia is in the Mars class, and all of our other Jin are basically on standby. We have to do particular things to control the Satoru's Munadi fight so that we can enter on a Judgment turn rather than a Flash turn. And all of these things added up result in a very, very, very fast Fusion Dragon fight. The notes for this are actually in the old version of the notes, but they will be in the new version as well. Manipulating the Satoru's Munadi fights at the end on a Judgment is actually really tricky and really complicated, far more complex than I could ever go into this video. But that's part of the key in getting this going. That's saving one of the turns on Fusion Dragon is being able to end on a Flint turn, or being able to end without having to use Judgment. You're not always going to be able to do that because they can do mean things, but when it does work, it works really, really well. As you can see, Ivan is on very, very low HP, that 4 HP there. That's that Power Bread coming through and making sure he's got that added survivability. So it really is a valuable Power Bread add. Adding that on Ivan, super valuable. I highly recommend you do it. You also go take a look at the Fusion Dragon fight. It's basically the same fight as we had before, except we only need to get 2 Judgments off before we can unleash everything. Now this is a very scary strategy, because if you get broken at all, you will not kill with the final Judgment, you will not have flashback, and you're basically in a world of pain. But sometimes you just need to go for it. Sometimes you just need to go for it and go for the optimal kill here. So what you're doing is you're going to open off for that Judgment turn, throw that into the Fusion Dragon, and you're going to do your Flash turn just as you would any other day of the week, not an issue. 1 more Judgment after that, and then finally we can work ourselves into the big kill. Now the way you kind of get around this and add some survivability is that you don't have to use the Boreas and the Thor on the turn that you would kill. You can do things like do like a partial turn. You can do like Boreas, Flash, Mars, and then do Thor for the kill on the final turn of the fight, that kind of thing. Because it can be, like, when you're on good pace, it can be really scary to go in and do the so-called Thorius turn when a single break could just kill your run afterwards, because you have no ability to survive whatever the Fusion Dragon's throwing at you. Again, the notes will have a lot of detail concerning how you get around some of the edge cases here, but very generally speaking, if you go for the kill and you haven't prepared for it, or have a contingency plan, it's a very, very, very hard fight to win from that position, even though it only has like 200 HP left, or 270 HP left. So here you can see the Thorius turn in action. So we got the first Judgment off, we got a boosted Judgment off, and now we can go for the Thor Boreas. So here's Ivan using Thor, no drama, that deals about 700 damage. Even though we have Ivan's only got 17 HP, you know, he's probably going to survive through Flash. Mia uses Boreas, another 900 damage, and then we're set up for the kill on the Judgment turn. The one thing you do need to keep in mind with this strategy is that if you have spooky friends or the curse ghost on either Mia or Ivan, that can kill them on this turn. So just be very, very acutely aware of that, right? If Mia goes down or if Ivan goes down, normally that's not an issue because you're going to kill anyway. But in this strategy, if they go down, you won't be able to get off the last Judgment, and that means, again, you're going to be damage short. All this information's in the notes, but this strategy here saves about 1.5 minutes if you can pull it off, or even up to 2 minutes. It's a very fast strategy and definitely something you should work into your game as you try to push for those better times in the category. Now look, just to close out this guide, I just want to say thank you to everybody in the community for embracing this category. We're now up to 25 runners on the leaderboard, which is absolutely insane. I never could have dreamt of this, like, years ago, that people would have such an active interest in Golden Sun. If you haven't seen the GameStun Quick Race, please go watch that. It is incredibly exciting, incredible runners, and I didn't even participate, I just commentated, and that just shows the depth that's in our community, and we're so blessed to have so many cool people hanging out with us these days. I have to mention a few people. I gotta mention Bluezer. He has done a ton of work on this category. He has helped me route a lot of things. He's had a lot of really good ideas. As you can see, I've been stealing his ideas for a while and making them work. So really big shout outs to him. He does daily runs basically of this category. I'll drop a link to his Twitch channel in the description. Definitely worth your time to check him out. He is one of the absolute very best of this game. Also shout outs to Bowie because he was right, and that's a thing. That's very important. So thank you, Bowie. He's also one of the main reasons that this community has really popped off. So a big heartwarming thanks to him for this, and of course the rest of the community as well. It's wrong of me to single out those two, but they mean a lot to me. So I want to give them the credit where it's due. But there's a ton of other important people as well. FX for the TAS jump, and FutureX, who has been just a meme lord in the community. Got a lot of much props to him. Valissa, she is incredible, technically gifted beyond any measure. We got Regnatrace doing work. We got the Good Cause coming in, doing good things for the community, and coming up with ideas as well. Like, the list goes on. So please join the Speedrun Discord, check out the community, check out the speedrun.com page, and get involved. Like, there's never been a better time to be a Golden Sun runner, and yeah, we're happy to have you. Hopefully this guide has been helpful. Check out the new set of notes, and yeah, hope to see you on the leaderboard real soon.